Amidst the hustle and bustle of Atlanta's Gateway International Airport, an unexpected confrontation occurs. A tall, stern-faced police officer stops a young black man with a questioning gaze. No one knows what is about to explode until the young man's name is revealed, shocking everyone around. And that moment is the beginning of a tragicomic story about prejudice, power, and courage. Morning in Atlanta. The spring sky is clear with a slight chill, and though the sun hasn't fully risen, the roads leading into Gateway Atlanta International Airport are already jam-packed with cars. Business travelers, families heading on vacation, people visiting loved ones, everyone converges here. Inside the vast main hall, towering ceilings and gleaming metal pillars catch the early light. Enormous glass windows overlook the runways, where a few aircraft are already preparing for takeoff. Luggage wheels rattle across the polished tile floors, mingling with loudspeaker announcements and hurried conversations. The atmosphere is brisk, almost electric. Many coffee stands line the walkways, with suited professionals hastily grabbing a last-minute espresso. Nearby, lines of passengers queue at check-in counters clutching passports and e-tickets while managing an assortment of bags and suitcases. Amid this bustling scene, Officer Jonathan Cross, a police officer in his early 40s, tall, closely cropped hair, patrols on what he calls a special round. Special in this sense because he tends to zero in on travelers who, to him, appear out of place. This morning, he's on alert due to vague rumors about suspicious activity. No official leads, but Jonathan's penchant for scrutinizing people's appearances and mannerisms, often laced with racial bias, drives him to watch the crowd intently. Simultaneously, not far from the check-in area, a black man in his early 30s is calmly pulling a wheeled carry-on behind him and carrying a gray briefcase. He's dressed in a light blue polo shirt, khaki pants, and black sneakers, casual but polished. Beneath this unassuming exterior lies a big secret. He is Andrew Foster, CEO of the mid-sized airline called Regal Sky. Andrew prefers to remain low profile when he travels. In fact, he's on a stealth trip to evaluate Regal Sky's customer experience firsthand, prompted by a spate of passenger complaints about staff behavior at certain airports. Each year, he schedules a few undercover flights, often booking tickets under a lesser-known name. This time, he booked under his real name but wears no suit, no CEO badges. As he nears the Regal Sky check-in area, Andrew notices an elderly Asian woman struggling with the self-service kiosk to print her boarding pass. She fumbles, pressing multiple buttons. Andrew stops to help. "Ma'am, may I help you with that?" The woman smiles sheepishly, her English somewhat hesitant. Andrew patiently guides her through, scanning the QR code, selecting a seat, and within minutes she has her boarding pass, thanking him with visible relief. This small gesture reflects Andrew's nature: patient, empathetic, quick to assist, qualities that have shaped his approach to airline management. This scene catches the attention of Officer Jonathan Cross, who happens to be standing nearby. His overblown suspicion kicks in. Who's this guy? Why is he going out of his way to help someone? In Jonathan's eyes, a young black man who dresses too nicely might be smuggling contraband. He tightens his grip on his belt holster, stepping closer. Andrew finishes assisting the elderly woman and is about to leave when he notices Jonathan's scrutinizing stare. He briefly stiffens, accustomed to being watched in public spaces. The thought crosses his mind. Why is it that a black traveler who simply dresses well often ends up under suspicion? Jonathan doesn't greet him, merely jerks his chin as he asks, "Where are you headed?" Andrew knits his brows but replies politely, "I have a flight to Chicago, officer." Jonathan glances at Andrew's ticket. A Regal Sky business class seat on an 8 a.m. flight. Boarding will begin in about an hour. Jonathan presses further. "Where's your luggage?" Just this carry-on and my briefcase, Andrew says, gesturing. Is something wrong? Jonathan frowns. Huh. Usually people check bags for a longer flight. Sure you're not packing anything suspicious? Andrew takes a breath to stay calm. TSA has already scanned my luggage. If you need more info, you can verify it with airport security. Jonathan growls under his breath. Lacking evidence, he turns away, yet warns. I'll be keeping an eye on you. Andrew watches him go, shaking his head in exasperation. Still, he tries to set this aside and focus on the reason for his trip. Gateway Atlanta International Airport is a major transport hub in the southeastern United States, especially busy in the morning rush. Over by the baggage drop, ground crew in Regal Sky's blue uniforms are labeling suitcases. Flight attendants walk by in thin purple jackets, Regal Sky's brand color, carrying iPads and travel documents. Farther down the hall, a small street band, 3 musicians, all white, plays a lively mix of jazz on saxophone, guitar, and a Cajun drum, hoping for a few tips from passers-by. Their melodies drift among the chatter of travelers from all corners of the globe. Americans, Asians, Africans, Europeans, mingling in one vast, multicultural space. Andrew appreciates this diversity. It reminds him of his very first flight, from his hometown in New Orleans to New York City for college, when he was overwhelmed by the swirl of people from everywhere. That's when he realized the power of aviation to connect people across borders, fueling his dream of working in the airline industry. He is now CEO of Regal Sky, a role he earned after saving the company from the brink of bankruptcy. He proceeds quietly to the business class lounge to await boarding time. With an hour to spare, he intends to observe how staff serve food and beverages and how they handle passenger inquiries. Andrew Foster grew up in a middle-class black family in the South, often the only black student in his advanced math classes, always striving for excellence. A few years back, Regal Sky, facing near collapse, recruited him as Chief Strategy Officer. Thanks to his reforms and long-term vision, he quickly rose to become CEO. Despite his position, Andrew avoids flaunting power. He believes nothing replaces seeing a passenger's actual experience for yourself. So he is here, in person, to confirm or refute the complaints he's heard. Sipping coffee in the lounge, he notes it's a bit too bitter, possibly a machine issue or poor barista training. He jots a short note in his small notepad. Next to him, a white woman on her phone is complaining about rising ticket prices. Andrew picks up a few words, frowns slightly, and makes another mental note to investigate Regal Sky's dynamic pricing policy later. At precisely 7:15 a.m., an announcement rings out that Regal Sky Flight 297 to Chicago O'Hare is now boarding. Andrew leaves the lounge for Gate G12, which is already lined with passengers, tickets in hand, anxious to board. At the counter stands Megan Parker, a petite woman with brown hair tied back in a ponytail. She's clearly fatigued after a morning of dealing with all sorts of passenger issues: overweight baggage, rebooking, delayed flights. Andrew joins the line calmly. Almost instantly, he spots Officer Jonathan Cross lingering in the distance, arms folded, staring daggers at him. Andrew's heart sinks. Why is he here again? He wonders. Sure enough, when Andrew steps forward to have his boarding pass scanned, Megan passes it across the reader and nods. Thank you, Mr. Foster. Enjoy your flight. Andrew is about to move on, when Jonathan's brusque voice cuts through the crowd. Hold on! Double-check his ticket and ID! Startled, Megan looks at Jonathan. Officer, the scanner says his boarding pass is valid. Jonathan insists. I want a more thorough check. He might be carrying something dangerous. All eyes dart toward Andrew, some with suspicion, others with annoyance at Jonathan's tone. Andrew's heartbeat quickens. He feels both outraged and embarrassed. A few onlookers whip out phones to record the scene. Andrew steadies himself. Officer, I went through security. My bag was scanned. Could you explain what else you want me to do? Jonathan just jabs a finger. Step aside. Open your bag so I can inspect it. Andrew moves off to the side, trying not to block other passengers from boarding. He opens his bag, letting Jonathan root through it. Inside is a laptop, charger, personal papers, nothing with Regal Sky branding. Jonathan flips through a notebook and finds a few references to flight schedules and partnership meetings, intensifying his unwarranted suspicion. What's all this about airline operations? Do you work for them? Andrew replies, I have business dealings with Regal Sky, yes. That doesn't give you any cause to stop me from flying. Jonathan scowls. We've seen plenty who claim to be airline employees sneaking items on board. Hearing such baseless accusations, Andrew stiffens. If you have no evidence, please return my belongings. The flight is about to leave. I have urgent work in Chicago. But Jonathan won't relent, raising his voice loud enough for the whole area to hear. Don't think you can fool me. I know you're hiding something. Passengers murmur, some filming with their phones. Megan Parker, the gate agent, nervously tries to intervene. Officer, if you can't produce grounds, we really can't hold him. Please reconsider. Jonathan brushes her off. Mind your own business, I'm doing my job. At this point, Gabriel Thompson, a tall, uniformed Regal Sky flight attendant, arrives from the jet bridge. He sees Andrew, a business-class passenger, being hassled, though he has no idea Andrew is actually the CEO. He steps up. Officer, if you suspect this passenger needs additional security screening, you should call airport security. You can't just personally stop him. Jonathan snaps around to retort, but at that moment, a nearby family's little boy throws a tantrum, further congesting the boarding area. Concerned about the flight delay, Megan urges, Passengers, please keep the entrance clear. Let's continue boarding. Andrew seizes the moment to end this quickly. He locks eyes with Jonathan, speaking in a calm yet firm tone. I've done nothing wrong. If you want, we can go to the airport security office. But right now, I need to board. Jonathan hesitates. Arresting Andrew on the spot would risk a major disruption. In the final call for boarding, Gabriel Thompson beckons Andrew. Sir, please board now before the door closes. We can discuss any concerns in flight. Jonathan grits his teeth but has no formal cause to handcuff Andrew. Finally, he growls. Fine, get on, but this isn't over. Andrew finds his seat, 2A, in business class near the window, and stows his briefcase. Gabriel offers him orange juice. Sorry about the inconvenience. We'll do our best to make your flight comfortable. Andrew acknowledges him with a small nod. He blames no one but Jonathan for what happened. Still, he feels a sting of indignation. If I were just an ordinary black man with no position or resources, I might already be in some holding cell, he muses. Soon after, the plane's engines roar to life, speeding down the runway for takeoff. Andrew tries to clear his head, focusing instead on the upcoming meeting in Chicago. But the memory of Jonathan Cross's glare won't fade easily. Business class has just 8 seats, including Andrew's. Across from him is a middle-aged European businessman typing feverishly on a laptop, and a 50-something black woman who witnessed part of the scene earlier. Once at cruising altitude, the woman leans over and quietly says, I'm sorry for eavesdropping, but what happened at the gate was so unfair. Are you all right? Andrew smiles faintly. I'm fine, thanks for asking. It's just, we've still got some ways to go in this country regarding racial prejudice. She nods. Absolutely. I'm a civil rights lawyer. Seen too many cases like this. If you need any legal help, don't hesitate to reach out. She hands him a business card. Her name is Sharon Willis, a well-known attorney. Andrew accepts it gratefully, though he's not yet sure he will need it. During the 2-hour flight, Andrew quietly evaluates every detail. The flight attendants' breakfast service, their response to special meal requests, the quality of the coffee, seat comfort, and courtesy. He remains incognito, not revealing his CEO identity. Still, Gabriel Thompson, the lead flight attendant, notices that Andrew is taking meticulous notes, including staff IDs and safety procedure references. Curious, Gabriel discreetly asks, "Apologies, sir. I see you're jotting down a lot about Regal Sky's service. Are you in the airline business?" Andrew smiles, giving a non-committal reply. "I'm involved in a few projects." Gabriel remains intrigued but doesn't pry further. The flight is otherwise smooth. Passengers in economy gripe a bit about lukewarm meals, but nothing major. Andrew can't shake the earlier confrontation with Jonathan, but tries to refocus on the service evaluation. Once they land at Chicago O'Hare, Andrew thanks Gabriel and the crew, swiftly leaving the aircraft. He's relieved that no one there recognizes him as the CEO. He has a busy afternoon ahead with Regal Sky's Chicago management. Exiting the arrivals hall, Andrew's phone buzzes with a message from his personal assistant at Regal Sky HQ, Samantha Green. "Boss, I got a weird call from a police officer named Jonathan Cross asking about you. Is everything okay?" Andrew's brow furrows. This guy is definitely not letting it drop. He texts back, "Please keep an eye on this. Do not share anything. I'll handle it." He sighs, steeling himself for the scheduled meeting, recognizing that Jonathan could become a bigger problem. At Regal Sky's Chicago office, Andrew meets 4 local managers who believe he's just a senior consultant sent by headquarters. He listens as they report on technical issues, delayed check-in software, cost-cut meals that draw passenger complaints. Andrew diligently takes notes, encouraging them to speak freely. By the meeting's end, Andrew reveals his corporate ID, Andrew Foster, CEO, Regal Sky. The managers leap to their feet, stunned and scrambling to apologize for not giving him a warmer welcome. Andrew waves it off. "No need. I wanted to see the unvarnished truth. Thank you for being candid." Yet his relief is short-lived. Samantha calls again. "Sir, Officer Cross has just filed a security inquiry against you, alleging you concealed information and might be transporting contraband." Andrew closes his eyes, exasperated. Clearly, Jonathan is abusing his position. Determined to set matters straight, Andrew books a late evening flight back to Atlanta on a different airline to avoid attracting Regal Sky staff's attention. He doesn't want to cause a scene or involve them further. At about 10:45 p.m., Andrew arrives in the relatively quiet arrivals hall of Gateway Atlanta's domestic terminal. The lighting is subdued. Only a few people mill about, checking phones, waiting to pick up loved ones. To no surprise, Officer Jonathan Cross is there, leaning against a pillar, arms folded, his expression hard as steel. Andrew's heart sinks once again. This guy is truly relentless. Jonathan steps forward. "So you've returned. Follow me to the security office for questioning." Andrew replies calmly, "You've been calling my company all day. If you don't have a warrant or probable cause, I can refuse." Jonathan sneers, "You can certainly try." Seeing the officer's aggressive stance, Andrew decides not to cause a public spectacle. He quietly follows Jonathan down a corridor behind the service counters. Jonathan leads Andrew into a narrow room with harsh fluorescent lighting, a single table and metal chairs, and a sign that reads, "Security personnel only." He shuts the door and locks eyes with Andrew. "Explain yourself. Who are you really, and why are you traveling with those Regal Sky files?" Andrew smirks. "I don't owe you an explanation. You're not a judge or federal agent, but if you must know." He pulls out his phone and calls Samantha Green, putting her on speaker. "Samantha, please confirm my position in the company." She states, "Yes, Andrew Foster is the CEO of Regal Sky, appointed by the board of directors 2 years ago." Jonathan's eyes widen in shock. Andrew hangs up and quietly says, "I'm Regal Sky's CEO. I routinely travel incognito to review our operations. You've harassed me for no valid reason." Jonathan stammers, "CEO? This can't be." Andrew fixes him with a level gaze. "I had all my proper documents when you tried to stop me earlier. You singled me out. Now what else do you want?" At that moment, Peter Albright, the airport's security supervisor, enters the room, looking tense. "Officer Cross, what's going on?" Mr. Foster filed a complaint with airport management. We checked the footage and you were way out of line. Jonathan is drenched in sweat. I was just doing my duty. I suspected. Peter Albright raises a hand. Enough, Cross. You had no legitimate grounds. We've had prior reports about you targeting people of color without reason. And now you've gone after a major airline's CEO. You realize the consequences? Jonathan stands cornered, unable to formulate a defense. Andrew steps forward, cold fury in his voice. I don't want a media circus, but I won't let this slide. I will be speaking with my attorneys. Peter nods at Andrew apologetically. We truly apologize. You're free to go. Officer Cross will be facing an official inquiry. Andrew leaves, feeling both drained and vindicated. He despises drama, but it's necessary to stand up to blatant discrimination. The next morning, Andrew is bombarded by calls. Apparently, a video filmed at the gate, where Jonathan loudly confronted Andrew, has gone viral. Headlines read, Airport police officer harasses black passenger, shocked to learn he's CEO. Local news outlets pick up the story. Witnesses give interviews, condemning Jonathan's prejudice. Civil rights organizations demand his dismissal. Reporters swarm Andrew, wanting interviews. Regal Sky's PR department is apprehensive about potential fallout, even though Andrew is the victim. His personal life is thrown into chaos, but he realizes it's also an opportunity to speak out for those who can't defend themselves. Within a week, the airport police department convenes a disciplinary hearing for Officer Jonathan Cross. Andrew attends with attorney Sharon Willis. Jonathan tries to justify himself, but he has no official tip or evidence, just his gut feeling, fueled by racial bias. Andrew addresses the board in a calm yet firm tone. I was able to protect myself because I have resources and influence. But what about everyone else who faces this discrimination? This issue goes beyond me. I urge the department to take real action. After reviewing the tapes, testimonies, and prior complaints against Jonathan, the board makes a swift decision. Jonathan Cross is terminated. Moreover, they announce they will review training protocols to ensure such abuses don't recur. The news spreads immediately. Most people applaud the decision, seeing it as a cautionary tale against racial profiling. In the aftermath, Andrew meets with Regal Sky's leadership to propose several initiatives. Boost anti-bias training for all frontline staff. Collaborate with airport security on a complaint hotline to safeguard passengers from undue discrimination. Host workshops on diversity and respect for customers at major airports, inviting law enforcement and airport employees alike. Meanwhile, the City of Atlanta and the airport authorities launch a plan to improve the security environment. Install more cameras at checkpoints and boarding gates. Overhaul the complaint process to ensure transparency and swift responses. Require cultural and racial awareness sessions for newly hired officers. Several weeks later, Andrew takes another undercover flight, this time from Atlanta to Los Angeles to test a new route. Approaching the check-in desk, he notices a young black man being briefly stopped by a newly hired security officer of Latino descent. Andrew braces himself, worried the same ordeal is about to unfold. But instead, the security officer politely says, "Sir, looks like your carry-on might exceed size limits. Let me measure it quickly. If it's within the guidelines, you're all set." The passenger cooperates. They chat amicably, and after a swift check, the officer waves him through with a smile. Andrew exhales in relief, heartened to see an example of respectful treatment. No suspicion, no unwarranted intimidation. Andrew boards his flight with a renewed sense of purpose. He settles into his seat and reflects on this turbulent journey. First, being stopped at the boarding gate in Atlanta, revealing his identity as CEO, confronting an overtly biased police officer. Watching the media coverage spark real change in airport security protocols. It's a testament that injustice does exist, but can be exposed when one stands firm. Andrew's position amplifies his responsibility to drive cultural shifts within his airline and beyond. No one should have to endure discrimination or prove their worth just to board a plane. As the plane powers up for takeoff, Andrew gazes out the window at the runway lights. He recalls his mother's childhood advice: never let fear or prejudice hold you back. You can become anything, so long as you keep your faith in doing good. That is precisely what he's doing. Still flying incognito, gleaning authentic insights to improve Regal Sky and, by extension, the travel experience for everyone. As for Officer Jonathan Cross, he faces not just unemployment, but also revived lawsuits from past victims of his racial profiling. His downfall underscores this moral. Bigotry ultimately destroys the person who harbors it. The story ends with the image of a Regal Sky plane carrying Andrew Foster soaring into the sky. His journey proves that true power lies not merely in titles, but in the courage to oppose injustice. What started as a minor standoff at a boarding gate lit a fuse that forced an entire system to reckon with its flaws. No one asks to encounter such adversity, but if it happens, it can serve as a catalyst for building a fairer, kinder society. And for each of us, the lesson is this: small gestures, an accusatory glance or a kind word, can escalate into large-scale conflict or empathy. Let's choose justice and humanity so that every journey, in the air or otherwise, becomes more open and uplifting. Spread this message. Regardless of who you are or where you come from, remember that all people deserve respect. Sometimes a single kind action, a single act of bold truth, can help us rise above prejudice. Together,